I'm going to introduce Eleanor next. And Eleanor is the director for the Seaver Foundation, which is an international children's charity that focuses on hearing children's voices. But that's not all she is. I've got a fun fact about Eleanor. She can actually rap the whole of Kanye West's first album. So give Eleanor a round of applause.
Hello everyone. I'm testing out this teeny tiny little microphone that's attached to me at the moment. I wanted to start with my disclaimers first of all. Firstly, it's not fair that I'm following John. I'd just like to point that out because that was lovely and I was so engaged the whole time. I actually didn't rehearse what I was going to say in my own head throughout that entire speech. It was lovely to hear. My second disclaimer is that I did intend to come completely prepared 3 weeks ago, as was requested by the MOE Foundation. What I did manage to do was email Darren yesterday and just say, I promise not to be too shit, but I'm not entirely prepared for this. And I have actually just got off a plane from Mexico, so it's definitely 4 a.m. in my head. And this may be half Latin, half Teesside, I don't really know. I'm not responsible for what comes from that, so I apologise in advance. Probably my final disclaimer is this artwork looked better in my head when I planned it, and I've actually taken something lovely that children have done expressing their voices and turned it into something horrible. But the message is still there, so if you come and you want to have a little look at some of the key messages on there and some of the children's voices, I would love you to do that and come and have a little look up close. That said, what does qualify me to stand here or to speak amongst the wonderful people that are speaking today? Today is about young people, about promoting success and promoting them to overcome their challenges. I'm not sure I qualify as a young person anymore, which is quite sad for me. And I don't think I fit your stereotypical version of success, unless, if you look at my bank accounts at least, or examine my intimate relationships with Wonga in the past, I don't know. However, I think what does qualify me to be here, I would like to think, is that I'm not talking as me. I have dedicated the last 5 years of my life to founding a charity which empowers young people's voices, particularly when they're in the most vulnerable of situations. And secondly, most importantly, acting on those voices. And it's that I'm bringing you today. It's not my message. Everything that I'm going to tell you will be something that has come from a young person, whether that be that they've drawn it, they've written it down, they've used colours, they've used plasticine to model it, which is harder to get back on an aeroplane if I'm overseas, or whether they've spoken it to me. And I promise you that every message that I'm going to give you will come directly from a young person and from us listening to their voices. So that's my disclaimer. They're not my messages either. And with that, I'd like to transfer my version of the MOE's messages to you. What are the challenges that young people face? How do we challenge the mindset that can often bring to them? And how do we empower them to change from that and to be successful through that? There's 3 challenges that we can all, probably all of us in this room, not just young people, that we will all encounter. The first of them that I want to acknowledge but have no experience or qualification to talk about is probably health and ability and disability. And so I want to acknowledge that and hang it on a hook because I'm not in a position to talk about that. The second challenge that I think all of us can encounter that might hold us back in some way is a deprivation of love or the experience of hate. So something that's affecting us emotionally. And the third would be deprivation of something very physical, practical, whether it be a service, access to a service, food, school, whatever that might be. And that's our practical provisions. And it's within these 3 things that listening to the young person at the centre of that challenged voice becomes really, really crucial. The entire concept for the charity stemmed very much from the second challenge I spoke about, because a deprivation of love or the experience of hate is something that we cannot see for another person. So we have to talk to the person at the centre of it. And the pinnacle moment for me with that was with a young girl called Perlita. And she was 6 years old. She was living in a refuge. She was already deprived of a family environment. There's 45 children, usually around 2 adults within that refuge. And every day she was going to school. Ooh, something's happening. Don't know what that is. Every day she was going to school and she was falling asleep. The teachers within the school were reporting back to the nannies, what's going on, you need to do something, let's send her to bed earlier. It's not working. Nannies report back to the teachers, well, you're not managing it properly at school, okay, let's get her medically checked. Teachers report back to the nannies, well, she's not eating properly, you need to, and it's this constant discussion around her of adults. And we came in and said, okay, let's have a conversation with Perla. She's 6 years old, but she's the only voice in this situation that actually knows what's going on. So we asked her, and Perla told us that the teenagers within that refuge who've experienced sexual abuse as young people were waking her up to play adult games in the night. So she wasn't getting any sleep. And that's how, for me, it became fundamental that no matter what the age, no matter what the experience, we need to listen to those people's voices about the challenges that they're encountering, because it's the only way we're going to find a route out of it. The third type of challenge that I spoke about was practical deprivation, and this picture sums it up for me, which I actually took a few years ago now. This is a community of people, young and old, and we're working with the young people at the moment who live and work on the local rubbish dump. You can see a lot of vultures in there. They find their clothes from there, they build their houses from there, they play with their toys from there, they often occasionally eat from there, and they find recyclable materials in there which they sell on, and that's how they generate their income. And with this, and with the situation with Perla, all of these noises are completely freaking me out, I'm sorry. And we wanted to know what's going on for these young people. And so, I flip here, like this. We spoke to them, because the first thing is to recognise a challenge. The second thing is to understand it and to empower those young people to talk to us about that. How did they feel? Scared of the slums. I have a meltdown every day for some reason. I'm missing home, I feel sad, I feel hungry, I feel lost, I'm trying to keep myself alive. And these were all of the key messages that were coming out of young people when we were talking to them about that. And it's at this point, with this situation and the situation of Perla, that I say, for every young person whose voice we want to empower, we're empowering them as an individual, we're telling them that they matter, that their voice matters. So we need to respond to that as an individual. And in my experience of running the charity, that's often what people lose somewhere along the line, is responding to a person as an individual, and that we have a responsibility, if we're going to empower their voice, to do something about it once we've heard it. And we spoke to them about what we should be doing about that as well. And here you will see some of the things that the children told us mattered to them, things that mattered about making a future for them. So, for example, with Perla, it was quite simple. What do you need? I need to move bedrooms, and I need someone to talk to. Fine. We've done those things. And importantly, what about the person that was perpetrating that abuse onto her? Actually, we needed to listen to him as well, because every single young person's voices matter, no matter where they come from or what they've been doing. And so we spoke to him. He wasn't ready to talk to someone. He didn't trust any adults yet, and he had no good reason to trust any adults yet. What he did need was a method of channeling his aggression, his anger, his testosterone, and his experiences. And so what we've done for him is set up a boxing program, and he's 8 months into that now. And for the young people that lived and worked on the dump, this is their work here, a lot of it. And for them, it was about education. It was about inspiring a way to find money. It was about inspiring a route out of poverty and how we could do that. So the thing that we went with was enterprise. Starting skills for startup businesses, whether that be jewellery, whether that be bag making, whether that be setting up a food stall. But also starting up in my, nearly gave the secrets away. So we also wanted to find a way that we can manage finance, because the important thing about all of this is we're never just giving a handout. We're giving people the tools that if they want to use it, they're going to have to do that themselves. We can't just give you a handout, because one day we won't be here to give you that. And if we allow people a route to finding money for communities that have lived hand to mouth for pretty much their whole lives and generations, We need to teach them how to manage that money in the future. And that for us came in the form of a youth savings group and teaching people about long-term goals, empowering them to have the belief that with small amounts we can reach our long-term goals. For me, these things are just one snapshot of the work that we've done and the ways that we overcome those challenges. And not just challenging a poverty mindset, because I understand the word poverty mindset, but I also think it's also a realism. Poverty actually exists. It's a realistic thing. It's not just a mindset. And yes, we need ways to overcome that, but we need to acknowledge that these people are living in pretty crap situations sometimes. And I think that's pretty important. And we need to give them that extra set of skills for their mindset to overcome that. This isn't a significant thing for me. The significant thing that came from that, I brought tools for this bit because Darren said we weren't allowed to use slides, so I was mixing up between tools and slides, is that when we first started working with these young people, it's a little tool for you. They were given a card that represented their community, and they were told you can either put that in the big dustbin you've got in front of you or the big heart, and that's what they had in front of them. And 70% of the young people we were working in put their own community into the dustbin, which I think is quite sad. They told us they put the animals in their community in the dustbin. They put the environment around them in the dustbin. And they put the adults in their community in the dustbin, which to me was quite significant. 2 years on, into this youth savings group and empowerment program, 70% of them put their community into the love hat. 100% of them wanted to change their community. None of them wanted to move on, which was the biggest surprise to me. They didn't want to move away. What they wanted to do was be, as young people, 100% of them also kept the children around them and the young people around them in the heart. So they believed that they were the agents of change. They weren't going to move away. They were going to stay within that community and they were going to make changes in it. And that's what empowering a young person's voice does, is that it teaches them to want to make a change around them. For Perla, she's now in school. She hasn't slept for at least for 3 weeks. I know that because I've been asking her every day for the last 3 weeks if she's been asleep at school, and she definitely hasn't. I know that much. And for the young man that was on the boxing program, he actually did speak about these sexual abuse issues for the first time about 10 days ago. And that was with the one man that's been coaching him and boxing him. He hasn't been boxing him. He's not been doing that. That has been teaching him to box for the entire time that he's been there. And that is one of the fundamental things that we must do. Whatever practical provisions we do, there has to also be, when we're speaking about young people and we're talking about their voices and we're talking about overcoming any poverty mindset, there must always be an underlying and consistent tone of love and care and stability and consistency. And we cannot do anything without that. It's only with that that we're going to change things. And the most incredible thing that comes from all of this, and this is smaller than I would like it to be, but do come and have a look at it on here, is that all of the young people that we work with talk about how they want to change things for the people around them. They want to offer help to other people. I want to change things for my family. I want to get a job and start my own business because I want to provide for my parents so that they don't have to live in that house anymore. They told us that they want to start foundations. And for me, that's the trickle effect. If we can empower young people's voices in difficult situations, the trickle effect is, if we do that with consistency and love and telling them that their voice matters, they're going to pass that on to the people around them, and that's how we're going to make a much bigger impact. So thank you for listening. Thank you very much. I'm now...
Thank you very much for that,
Thank
Eleanor.
you.
I really enjoyed that talk.
Thanks.
So I've got a question for you.
Yes.
What were some of the challenges with starting the charity?
Ooh. Other than the relationship with Wonga, there's been a lot. Similar things to those that John spoke about. Finding the right people to have the same motivations as you, and where to put the trust and when. And another thing, exactly the same thing again that John said, of giving out so much that you end up with nothing left to give. And that is a real life thing. I've been doing lots of research. I'm doing my PhD at the moment, and there's a huge compassion fatigue, and that's a really live thing that goes on. And working within new cultures that you don't necessarily know and understand, and trying to operate within them to give out and be respectful without ever being judgmental.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I think it's even more so because we decided to sort of push on despite all the challenges.
Yeah, through the end. Thank you.
Okay. Have we got a question from the group? So, Akeem?
Yes.
When did you realise you wanted to run a charity, and what was the biggest action made towards it?
The biggest action towards it? When I realised I wanted to run one was when I'd been involved with 3 or 4 different charities that were working with young people. And I realised that they were working with young people and operating around them and making all of their claims about the impact they were making according to the adults working with those young people. And it felt really wrong to me that no one was actually asking the kids at the centre. I was involved in some international volunteering programs, travelling to refugees. And I just thought, no one's asking these kids if this is any good for them. They've already got attachment issues and people are flying in and out of their lives. And it's wrong that no one's asking them. The biggest action was that I'm probably slightly too confident occasionally and couldn't find anyone I thought was going to do it better. And the biggest action to going towards it was I was on a course doing a master's to be a children's nurse, and I woke up and decided that I was done with that and I was going to give it 6 months to start this off. We also work with a lot of children in the UK as well in similar situations, so we work all over the place, and I got myself into a school to run the first ever programme. So I quit the masters. I was emotional, probably hormonal, but I did that day, and it went from there. So.
Thank you, Eleanor.
Thank you.